Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to the iPlatform webinar this afternoon. I'm just going to wait just a couple of seconds to make sure everybody's in and we'll get started. Okay, I think we're ready to go at this point. Again, thank you so much for coming to the iPlatform webinar this afternoon. We appreciate you spending some time with us, so we'll get to it. I do want to say first and foremost that I wanted to thank the Department of Education for their support and for this platform in general. It's a really great tool for you to be able to view the data for your school or district compared to others, and there's just a lot of valuable information on there, so we appreciate that. I'm Heather Jenkins. I also have here on the webinar today my colleague Mike Schwartz.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here. And thanks, Heather, for doing the presentation. I'll be around to answer any questions and monitor the chat.
Perfect. All right. So at this point, I'm just going to turn my video off just so that you get as much possible screen as you can. We're going to do a little overview of iPlatform. We're going to look at iReport, iAchieve, a little bit about iExplore, and then go over some scenarios for you. So first things first, we wanted to get a little bit of information about who might be on this particular webinar. I am going to be able to put the poll up for you folks. And if you could just take a moment to answer the questions that are popped up on your screen, there's just a couple of them, get an idea of who's here and how familiar you are with iPlatform. So we'll just wait 1 minute for those answers to come in. All right, we've got a lot of folks finishing up right now. So we've got some folks mostly that have used it a little. Maybe a couple of you have been to a training before, or this might be your first introduction. We've got just a variety of folks. Looks like mostly are administrators, like district administrators or principals. And then Mike, I'm not sure if you're able to check the answers for anything specific folks are hoping to learn today, because maybe once we get the end of the poll, we'll figure that out. I just got one more person. I'll give you another couple more people, just another couple of seconds, and then I'm just going to end the poll. All right. Great. Mike, do I share results? Do you know?
You don't need to.
Okay, because it says share results. So I'll just close it and then you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right. So just a little bit of information about iPlatform. This is information for all New Hampshire schools, whether they be charter schools, you know, your academies, regional schools, whatever they are. And we collect data, and the department collects data through different systems that they have to be able to get assessment data, whether It'd be New Hampshire SAS or SAT or Access. We're able to get different information on demographics and basic school performance. And all of those particular tools have gone in, and data is taken from those to be able to put what we have available to us on the different areas of iPlatform. Just a heads up, iPlatform, the 2024 data is now available for iReport and for iAchieve. iExplore still has 2023 data. They have not been able to update everything there yet for the 2024 school year. It should be done by the end of this month, and iExplore is going to have a couple of different ways of being able to look at reports and data that we're going to go through as well, so that you can take a peek. There's been some changes to the downloads there, which will be helpful. To be able to access iPlatform, it looks like most of you have accessed it at some point. For those of you that are new here, you're going to go into Google and you can literally just type in iPlatform, or there's a long URL that you can use. But if you click on iPlatform, and it's right on the New Hampshire Department of Education's website, it will bring you to something that looks like this. As of today, I saw that iAchieve has a new here, and iReport has a new word next to it. So it will look very similar to this. To get into iReport and to talk a little bit about some of the biggest sort of areas of this, as we're looking through each one of these sections, iReport is like a specific report card. I look at it as something where you're able to view a specific school or district's information. So you're mostly looking from school to school or district to district, one at a time here. So as we go into this, all you do is from the iPlatform web page, you're going to click on iReport. And it will bring up a school and district report card screen that looks like this. You are going to choose in any one of these drop downs the information on your school or district. I find it really helpful to just start typing in your school or district name. It will start populating with the schools that meet that criteria, and then you choose it. Right now, you're able to select the year. It defaults to 2024, but you could go back and look at previous years as well. And then you're just going to click View Report. When you view the report, the first screen that's going to pop up is an overview screen here. And this is what it sounds like. It is an overview of a lot of the different tabs that you'll see within iReport. And sort of one of those, it's compiling all the information from this and just giving you kind of a one-pager on all the different information that's within iReport. All the tabs within iReport are right along the top, so you can see that there's overview, profile, achievement, growth, environment, educator, college, finance, IDEA, and ESSA. Some of the big things to think about here too, up at the top, is that you are able to take a look and search. You can go back to the search page from here. You can change the school year. You can look at the school list if you chose a specific district. You can download and compare different entities as well. That's the year there that you could choose. If we move on to the achievement tab, as we're kind of going across, some of the highlights that we have for the achievement page here have to do with the specific assessment proficiency and by subject. So you can see here that we have ELA, and we can see that the proficiency for this particular school is they have 51% proficiency. And what that is down towards the bottom where you see the student achievement levels and you see the different levels of achievement. Proficiency are the students that are level 3 and 4 combined. So those equal the overall 51% proficiency. Some of the other things just to talk about here, this target, we get a lot of questions about target. And what the target is what the state is projecting or hoping to see for achievement scores. A target is set each year. It is not the state average. They're required to put in a state target. And so this is what's being represented by the line here that says target. Also on this page, it's nice that you're able to see the state of New Hampshire here. You can see that in this particular grid, we've got the information on ELA proficiency. So for this particular school, the proficiency is here. For the state of New Hampshire, it's here. And for the overall district, it's here. So you can see each one of the entities that are listed on here, listed in the graph. As we move on to the growth tab, some just general information looking specifically at the mean growth percentile. So it's looking at MPG. Just a little bit of information about growth is we're looking at a comparison from year to year. So if we have in 2023, student A scored about a 512 on ELA for their scaled score, the way that it works is they are put into a sort of cohort or like students that scored that same, around that same score. So they're academic peers within that particular score level. And then they look at that student again, and let's say they scored a 578 on that assessment the next year. They are looking at that student's growth compared to the academic peers that they were grouped with the year before. And that's creating their student growth percentile. So all of those student growth percentiles are averaged together, and that becomes the mean growth percentile for this particular screen here.
And Heather, just to kind of add in, so one thing to think about is that means that, if you're a higher performing student within your school, you're going to be grouped with other higher performing students around the state. And so, how you did this the second year in 2024 will be looked at compared to how those other students who in 2023 were high performing, how they did in 2024. So it's a good measure, regardless of whether you're thinking about kids who, are struggling or kids who, are a little stronger in their academic achievement.
And to piggyback off that a little bit too, Mike, is when we talk with schools about accountability and what the sort of indicators are for accountability, a lot of folks are thinking that it has everything to do with achievement and those students who are proficient or highly proficient, and they're trying to get students to those, a level 3 or a level 4, where a lot of schools are not necessarily thinking about the growth indicator, which is one of the main indicators for accountability as well. So we want to make sure that students aren't just proficient, but they're continuing to grow. Just another thing with the mean growth percentile, anything higher than a 50 is going to indicate that on average, the students in that group, whether it be your whole school or a specific subgroup that you're looking at, are making more growth than the state average. So you want to see 50 or higher. As we are moving through this, I'm going to go live and show you a couple different features here, but I wanted to specifically show you the download portion of this, where you're able to look at specific report cards and summary reports that we have. I'm just going to pause there for just a second. Mike, this is still going to be the same here for iReport, correct? It's just iExplore that's going to be a little different.
Yep, that's correct, Heather.
Okay, just making sure before I go through. Thanks. All right. So we've got the report cards for your specific school or district. We've got a summary report and a detailed report. if we look at the summary report, it's a shorter version. It's just a snapshot here of some of the major information within iReport. So you've got a lot of the information from those tabs on one page. The detailed report is one that is, you can see how many pages long this is. It's got all of the information pretty much from all of the tabs and all of the subgroups and everything on there. So you can print this information as well and have all the information from each of the tabs in one particular document. Downloading to Excel or a CSV is also some things that folks, it's helpful sometimes to be able to look at the information and delete what you want to delete, or look at the information a little bit differently. So going into this, the first one is all data for a selected school. So as you are in iReport and you click on this, it will keep your information about the school or district that you were looking at. And it will allow you to download the data from there. There's a couple different ways to be able to download the data. Once you click download data, it will also bring you to other screens where you're able to choose which data you want to be able to see and how it's downloaded. So you can take a peek at that. The data from multiple entities. This is nice because you're able to, if you have more than one school in your district, you can look at those different schools side by side, or if you have other schools even outside of your district that you would like to be able to compare or look at, you can choose up to 3 different schools or districts to look at, and then you can download the data as well. All data in schools for a specific district. Just a heads up, if you are going to download data from here, you do want to be able to select the district. It defaults to the very first district. You want to choose your district, and then you can choose the specific schools that you would like to see as well. I want to go live here to iReport. So as I'm here, I would have just gone in and chosen iPlatform. This is the actual iPlatform site. You can see here that we've got this new next to the iReport. So I'm just going to click right on this.
Heather,
Yep.
as that's, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as that's opening up too, I just wanted to give you kind of a summary of some of the questions folks put in at the beginning.
Oh, great.
And most all of you on the call, it sounds like, are looking for the most part for a general overview, for kind of a review of iPlatform. That's what most of the folks had said, either because they've used it a little bit and they need a refresher, or because they're new to it. There are a couple of, there's some folks who have done some work in iReport, but because they have to, but are interested in some of the other features. So I'm sure you'll hit some of that with iExplore and iAchieve. There is somebody that mentioned that they're interested in how they can use this to inform parents, or how they can inform parents to use the platform. So that's something that I'll think about, and you can think about as you're going through it as well, Heather. And then just looking for learning gaps and how to improve student outcomes based on learning gaps. So that was most of it. There's somebody asked about 2024 results, and you already mentioned that's in there. So how can parents use it? How do you find gaps for learning outcomes? And learning the other pieces of beyond iReport. So I'm sure you'll hit all that, and I'll think about the parent piece.
Okay, perfect. We also have we have a iPlatform webinar for parents too. I don't think they're meaning to like have parents necessarily attend. They're probably thinking about which data is good to show parents, but that's just an option as well. Okay, so we have the school or district here, so I can type in any school or district that I would like. Again, I'm starting to type in the district. I want Nashua. I'll click on Nashua. I want 2024. I can choose a specific town or grade span or things like that here. We usually know which one we're looking at, so we get right to it. So as I look in iReport, the first thing that's going to pop up here is going to be that overview page. So again, this is a little bit of a snapshot of all the different tabs and the important information that is within iReport here. Some of the things to just show you and make sure you understand is there's a lot of color coding within iPlatform that can be really helpful. So this top 25%, middle 25%, lower 25%, I just want to caution you, to see top 25% doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. So you want to make sure that you're looking at what the indicator is. So here, in-school suspension rate, they're in the top 25%. That does not necessarily, that doesn't mean that's great. But if they were in the top 25% of ELA proficiency, that's great. So just keep in mind that there's the color coding. There's a lot of hovering over things. So you can see here, it's great. You can see the, last 3 years for suspension rates, see if they're going up, see if they're going down. So that's just sort of a little bit of the gist of this particular page. As we move on, we could go to the profile page here, and I just want to show you the profile. This is basically how many students are in the district, a lot of student population breakdowns, and by race and ethnicity and all of that. Again, we are able to hover over a lot of the information here. So this is showing me my economically disadvantaged. Let me just make this a smidge bigger. And we can see, it looks like in this particular district that the economically disadvantaged population is growing from year to year. I can also look at students with disabilities and see if there's any sort of growth there. So again, looking at the hover feature can be helpful in seeing if the population is growing or if the population is going down for your specific student populations here. Same thing here, you can see with your race and ethnicity. So you can look at total enrollment. Is your enrollment going up? Is it going down? Looks like it's going down. So you can get just a lot of information on this profile page. Achievement is definitely something that parents are going to be interested in. So just putting it out there that they can see the achievement here. There's no login, so anybody can log into this. So again, we've got some colors here that are going to be super helpful. So we've got the state of New Hampshire. We've got Nashua, the district. If I had chosen a specific school in Nashua, I would have the school in yellow here. And it would be able to show me all of those particular comparisons. The way that this is designed and the way that all of these sort of features are designed is you're going to click here and you'll be able to see a pop out. There's a lot of clicking and a lot of hovering that you're able to do in here. So you might look at this and not really see all the information unless you're clicking on those particular pop-outs. When you click on a pop-out, you're able to see, I like this information here. I can see the proficiency level by grade level here. So I'm able to see if there's certain grade levels that are performing higher than others. If I do not want to see this pop out anymore, I actually have to click on it and it will close it. If I don't, it will just continue to open up pop-outs on top of one another. So I can look at the information here. On the bottom here, these achievement levels, I like this achievement level here, and you're able to see the different levels of achievement and the percentage of students. And then as I hover over this, you're able to see that compared to the state of New Hampshire. Or if I click on the pop out here, I'm able to also see by student subgroup or race and ethnicity and some general information about that. Same thing with the participation rates. You're able to see the specific participation rates, and you can see it also by subgroup as well. For those who have a big English language population, you'll also be able to see information down here for the English language proficiency. This is a good time to just make sure that you understand there is, depending on your district, there may be some suppressed information. So if there are 10 students or less, that are in a particular category, the N size is not big enough, and so it will not show you the information. So a lot of districts may not have something in this particular area. As we move on to growth here, this is where we're talking about growth is just as important as achievement in a lot of cases when it comes to accountability. So this is the growth factors again for this particular district. And you can see here, if I were to hover over this over time, where their growth is. The 50% and the 51% means that they are making better than average growth, better growth. Let's say that. I think it is better than average growth. Yeah, than the state average. So again, we can kind of take a peek at all these and do any of the hovering over this. Anything else, Mike, that you think, any other questions come in on this before I move on maybe to iAchieve?
Nope, I think you're good.
Okay, great. We'll go back here. All right. This next couple of slides just tells you some of the things that you might want to check out on each tab. So if you're curious as to some of the things that you might be able to see and we didn't cover it, you can take a peek at these couple of pages and it gives you a little bit of general understanding about what's on each one of the tabs there. It sounds like maybe there weren't any questions on iReport. I will just feed them to me, Mike, if you get any from for now, and I'll get right into iAchieve. iAchieve, okay, great. We're gonna get the same way into iAchieve, the same way right off of the iPlatform. This particular portion of iPlatform has a lot to do specifically with achievement and proficiency and growth. So this is where the meat of, I feel like your achievement is going to be seen for your particular district or a specific school. So this first tab, the assessment participation tab, we've got our colors in here and everything as usual. The participation rates, just a little bit of information. The participation rates are only based on students who are in your school for the full academic year or your FAY students. So they need to have been in your school or district for 90% of the academic year. So of those students that were in your school for the full academic year, they are looking for, as a federal target, the state of New Hampshire doesn't have the target. They are guided by the federal government, and then you need 95% participation rate. So it's really important that you have your students taking the assessment. It's something that we talk about with schools as well, is making sure that as many students as possible are taking the assessment so that you don't get any sort of, I guess the scores will be averaged in. If you have, let's say we have 100 students and I have only 94 students who took the assessment. Not a student, but the equivalent of one student will get a 0 for the overall achievement score when it comes to your federal indicators. That's not what we're seeing on this particular platform right now. When we look at achievement, we're seeing achievement levels for every student who was there for the full academic year with none of that taken into consideration. But participation rate is important for schools to make sure that they are meeting those federal guidelines. As we move on to the proficiency and growth tab, this tab is really helpful for a lot of folks, specifically who are looking to see how achievement has changed from year to year, either at the cohort level or at a specific grade level. Same thing with growth. So this might be something that parents would also be interested in seeing that proficiency and growth for your particular school or district. So up at the top, you have the overall proficiency for the particular year and the academic growth. Down at, if you're looking here, down at the bottom, again, just a reminder, the mean growth percentile higher than 50% indicates that on average students in that group or as a whole are making more growth than the state average. This area here is, we're looking at, I want to just make it a little bit bigger here. We're looking at the proficiency and growth over time. So it can follow a cohort over multiple years. So you're looking at it almost diagonally. So you can see that students who in 2020, they had the COVID year. In 2021, I'm just going to do this here. This particular group of students for this district had 51% proficiency. They went to 49, back to 51, up to 63. So you can look at it this way here, or you can look at it across the grade level and say, okay, so this particular grade level stays pretty consistent. They're going up a little bit each year. So they're making some growth when it comes to proficiency. Same here. This, I can already tell you, I took the screenshot from the state of New Hampshire, which I probably should have chosen something different because we're going to see 50% pretty much everywhere because it's the state of New Hampshire. But you get the idea of what you would see for growth dependent on your particular school or district. We'll go over it a little bit more too when we're going live. For the achievement,
I'm sorry, there was a question about whether that's like a true cohort, and just to explain it, so a little bit more, the cohorts, if you go down from like grade 3 in 2021, where it's 44% on the left there, and grade 4 in 2022 is 48%. Those are not going to be, it's not the same, necessarily the same set of students. So it's the students who, all the fourth graders one year, all the fifth graders the next year. Most of those students, the vast majority, 90+% will be the same students, but there will be some fluctuation. And obviously within your school, you'll have a sense of how much fluctuation there typically is from year to year. But what we found in general, the vast majority, 90+%, are typically going to be the same students from year to year, especially when you're considering.
great. Thanks, Mike. All right, moving on to the achievement tab here. We're able to see some achievement levels and academic growth. Again, you can look at it by level and then the academic or achievement growth over time. So you've got the different levels of proficiency here and how that number of students has changed over time. So you can see if level 1 is growing or decreasing, or level 2, 3, or 4. So again, all color coded for growth over time here. This last one with the ESSA indicators, this is where we're talking about your particular school or district's accountability measures here. So this is the school that I was looking at. This is they're in good standing. This all the federal accountability information. All of this achievement is based off of that, making sure that you have the 95% participation rate. So everything is looked at and taken into consideration for your federal accountability. And so you can see specifically where your particular school or district is falling into. This is actually by school. So where your school falls into those indicator values for achievement, equity, English language proficiency if it if you have the N size enough. This college and career readiness is for high schools only, and same with graduation rate. So you can see where you fall under for your indicator ratings.
There's
So
somebody,
there, yep,
sorry,
go
somebody who
ahead.
was very astute and noticed that there is no growth. The growth indicator is missing, and that actually is a bug in the deployment. So there'll be a new version of iReport implemented or posted, I think, mid of next week. And that'll have growth for the indicators. Everything else is right. It's got there's plenty of other growth data. All the other growth data we saw in iReport and iAchieve is correct. It's just missing that indicator from this page. So
Okay.
it's not
So
there.
for iAchieve, it'll be right on this ESSA page here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna go live into iAchieve. So if I go here, I'm gonna go right into iAchieve. First thing that happens when you're in iAchieve is it's going to default right to the state of New Hampshire. I'll keep it right on this for right now, but I do want to change the town information as we go further, because it is a little bit more helpful to kind of see how it changes. So if we're looking overall for the state of New Hampshire, there's a 94% participation rate in ELA, 95 in math, and 89 in science. And then you can kind of see the percentage of students not tested as well. We're going to go over this a little bit in a scenario, so I'm not going to get too much into that, but you can see here too, again, same thing. I can look at it from year to year and also by subgroup or race and ethnicity. For the proficiency and growth tab here, we'll go into proficiency and growth, and I am going to search for a specific district here. So maybe we'll do. Okay, so I'm in the Bedford School District here. Again, because this is like a pop out, I'm going to click on this X. It's not going to take Bedford off of there. It's just going to close that particular drop down. And so now I'm seeing for the Bedford district, I'm able to see the assessment proficiency. I can click here and hover so that I can see if any of those proficiencies have gone up or down. The academic growth, I can see that overall for the district, ELA, they're making good growth here, but they are not making quite as much growth as the state average. So that's a good information to have. And then as we go down here, we're able to look at, again, if I'm looking at that cohort level from year to year, we can see that we've got some students here when it comes to ELA proficiency. They seem to be making pretty good growth year in and year out, some down then, coming down here. So I might want to wonder what's going on with this particular group of students. As we're looking at math, we can see that math is a little bit different story. We seem to be going down a little bit faster, I guess, or going down a little bit more just in math in general. So that might be something I might want to look at, is what's going on with math, why each year are students going down, and they're not just going down by cohort. Well, in some cases they are, I guess. These seem to be going up. This seems to be, a dip here. So you can look at it in a lot of different ways. Just pointing out here with science doesn't really work the same way because they only take it in grade 5, 8, and 11. So you're only able to see the science scores for that. So there's not growth indicators or anything there because it's not from year to year. So this is the same type of thing, but dealing with your growth factors.
Heather, One more thing, just because somebody had asked earlier on about looking at different subgroups to
Mhm.
target. If you go
Yeah,
to the top where you click, yep, show filters, you want to just show them, like maybe just choose the subgroup, leave all grades and make the
okay.
subgroup and choose uh, um, low income, what's the word? Not low income,
We're in
economically,
Bedford right now, so maybe we'll choose,
economically disadvantaged.
we could, or students with disabilities, whatever.
We can. There may not be enough, but you can try them. That's the only problem.
Okay.
So with these, you have to be in a pretty large district. Otherwise, it's going to suppress the data. But certainly for something, for some larger districts, this will be, that much more valuable. And, so now you're looking at all this data now represents only your students who are, coming from um, families who are struggling economically. So
Mhm.
economically disadvantaged students. So just one way to look at a subgroup. I mean, you could try special ed and see if there's enough students, but
Mhm.
you'd be doing the same, and then you can be looking at all the indicators very quickly for that group.
Yeah, this is, I find it really helpful to look at, a lot of people ask how they see their students with disabilities, and if they are making as much growth or are as proficient as others. So this does have the
This is
overall.
without disabilities,
Yep.
students without disabilities.
Oh, I was like, wow, we're pretty high. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so you can see that there is definitely a difference here, and you would be able to kind of, again, I can still look at, I should be clicking on it for some reason, it's not hovering. There we go. You can see what the different, if there's other subgroups of those students as well. Mhm,
And a great way to look for trends too within a subgroup
mhm.
over time.
All right. Thanks, Mike. All right, so the next thing I want to do here is look at achievement levels. Hmm.
Heather, you might want to reset
I'm just looking here to just make sure. Does it keep it? I didn't know that it kept. Okay, so we're going to,
you click. I think you can say hide filters at the top. Maybe not. Or maybe that just hides them. You actually have to reset
it
them.
hides them when it goes to the next screen. So I had to open it again, but I'll just say all students.
Great.
Okay, so now we've got all students here. Maybe. I've never seen that happen before. Do I have to click all students again?
I think you do.
All right, here we go. All right, so this achievement level page, I really like the achievement levels up here. It tells us what percentage of students are at each achievement level. But what I like even more about this particular page is when I click here and I hover over this, it tells me of the students who scored level 4 in 2024, which is what I'm looking at, I can see down, ooh, that's hard because I can't point. I can see that basically 12.6 of those students, 12.62, were level 3 last year, and they went up to level 4. And the same thing, the 53.62 of them were level 4. Maybe the other ones weren't required to test at some point, but if I click on any of the other levels here, you can see, okay, for my level 2s, 1.21% of those students were level 1 last year, 10.25 were level 2. We had 37.93 were level 3 and stayed the same. But I also have 21.28% of students who went from a level 4 down to a level 3. So I like to look at this just to kind of see how our students are doing. All of that factors into this growth, because you've got students going from level 4 to level 3. Maybe they're not making quite as much growth as their peers in the state are. So it's kind of all relative. And then I can see again the achievement and growth over time. So here's my achievement. If I hover on this, you can kind of see. I was going to say, I thought the subgroups and everything popped up. So you can see what the specific subgroups are for those particular timeframes. And it's down at the bottom here where you see the particular years. So all the way to 2024. So it's just a nice sort of way to be able to see what the growth or how the proficiency has been going over time. This last one here, the ESSA indicators.
Heather, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt real quick. There was a question too about what not required to test represents. And the person, whoever asked it, you're right. Most of that are grade 3 students. So, last year they weren't required to test if they are in grade 3 this year. It also will represent kids who moved from out of state. So, maybe the first year they joined New Hampshire was in 5th grade. So they would also show up as not required to test in the prior year. So those are a couple of reasons you'd see someone is not required to test when you're looking at that movement from one level to the next.
This ESSA indicators, we can see that I had Bedford, the school district, chosen, and I had to choose a specific school to see what their standing is. So they're in good standing. We can see that they don't have a large enough population for the English language proficiency. We're going to get NAs for these two here because it's not a high school. And then we have the achievement, we have equity, and then the growth will be on here as of sounds like next week or the end of the month. Another question before I move on, Mike?
Nope, you're good right now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So again, we have information here in the slides to be able to show you what you might want to take a peek at on each particular screen within iAchieve. So if we didn't get to something, this might help you a little bit. Going into iExplore, I'm going to go a little bit quickly through iExplore, and we'll get through some of the things that you might be able to see with iExplore. There's some really great information within iExplore. So as we're looking at this first, again, you can kind of see the information. I'm just making it a little bigger here. The Explore tab is allowing you to take a look at any of the indicators up here. So you can take a look at the list right now. Basically, it's every single school within the state, but you could look at a specific region of the state. Right now, again, it says 2023. It will be updated for 2024. And you're able to look at specific indicators. There's different indicator categories. So if you know you want to look at something that has to do with academic growth, you could choose academic growth here. And then the indicator name will shrink down the list to anything that is applicable to academic growth. I can almost never remember where anything is, so I don't usually choose an indicator category. I just scroll through the list here to be able to find the indicator name. Right now, it's looking at average class size. So the way you look at this is right now, it's looking at the average class size for all of these schools compared to the proficiency in math and ELA. So this first particular tab just is going over that ELA and math proficiency. So what we're seeing here is information and all the different schools, and they're all laid out here on this particular grid. This Pearson R value is something that's important because it has to do with the probability of a correlation between the indicator that we've chosen here, which is average class size, and proficiency in ELA and math. So for Pearson R, we want a value that is between a positive 0.8 and 1 is a positive correlation, and anything below a 0.5 is a weaker correlation. And just a reminder that even if there was something that was like a 0.85 here that said average class size, and that there was a correlation between average class size and proficiency in ELA and math, that does not mean that the class size is causing the proficiency in math or ELA to be positive or negative. So again, correlation does not equal causation. Interestingly enough here, we have a Pearson R value of 0.07, so much to folks' dismay, average class size is not necessarily indicative of whether students are scoring higher on math and ELA. Okay. Moving on here, I want to pop over to the Discover tab. I like this tab because while the Explore tab was looking at the indicator specifically for proficiency in ELA and math and whatever indicator I chose, on the Discover tab, you can choose any of the indicators that you want. So you get to choose the x-axis and the y-axis for this. So as you're doing this, you're able to choose any of those indicators. Right now, I'm looking at student growth in ELA versus average teacher salary. And right now we're looking at this. So the Pearson R value is a 0.18. So the student growth in ELA is not necessarily correlating with the average teacher salary. All the information on the right-hand side can also be used. So if you wanted to look again at a specific region or a specific school or district type or a specific year, you can change all of that information there.
Now, there are two quick things. One is just a heads up, you got about 8 minutes.
Yep.
Time is going by quickly. I'm slowing you down, I think. And the other thing, there was a question about whether you can remove certain schools when you're looking at those the correlation. And you can't do that. You can look at just a region. So as Heather showed us, you could select like the North Country or Central Region. You could do that, and then we'd only looking at those schools. But you can't take out one individual school. I do know that there were some data points that, this data all comes from your school districts, and there was a couple of mistakes that I think some school districts might have done on one of their forms that might have identified the number of staff, for example. So that is hopefully going to be fixed once that data gets corrected. But that may be why we see some anomalies in the data.
Great, thank you. This last tab here is the Compare tab. So this is where you are able to look at a specific indicator and then compare a couple of different schools or a couple of different districts and compare those to the state. So you can see here that we've got Abbott Downing School is the blue, Ackworth Elementary is the gray, and then you've got your state average here. So you can see what they are compared to that. And then this, if I was on the screen, I could scroll all the way down here and be able to see all of the general information. So I'm able to compare schools. It's really great to be able to look at that and see, especially if they're in the same district, if there's equity in education and where we're looking at and how those particular schools compare to one another. All right. This here is, we've got the screenshots of what it's going to look like here as you are downloading information. With the iExplore, the new download feature, if you click, it's no longer going to be up where it was before. It's going to have this little download feature here, and it will download specifically what screen you're on. So this, we have the Explore tab open, and so now it's going to allow me to download the information for this particular page here. So here's all of the different screens that you might be able to see, and then you're able to also look at some of the indicators and download them and choose what you would like for those indicators to be able to download. So the download feature will be a little bit different. Anything you want to add to that, Mike?
No, only that you can, as to the question earlier, you could download the results of all the schools and then take data out in your own Excel file and take a look at different information that way as well.
Okay, great. For iExplore, I'm not going to go live there, but here's some general information that you might be able to take a look at that we didn't get to for each one of those pages. And then we'll get down here to some possible scenarios. So it's always nice to look at scenarios so that we can show you like where you might be able to find some interesting information in here. So first scenario here is due to community dynamics, which is a nice way to put it, maybe, you're wondering if your school is struggling with assessment participation rates. You're looking to see your school's participation rates and maybe a breakdown of subpopulations that may or may not be participating. Where could you find this information? And so as we're looking at this, and I'm on, please come, let's see. As I'm looking here, first things first, I would like to go into iReport because this, as you know, has the information here about like the overview and information about a particular school. So I'm actually going to go here. I'm going to choose. Okay, I'm just going to go back to search here.
If you want to switch districts, you need to go back to search.
Okay. I should have just opened it brand new. So if I'm going to the Portsmouth School District, I can click here. Always when I'm trying to get, okay. So as we're looking here, we wanted to see participation rates. So if I go here, I have my assessment participation. I can take a look at this. If I wanted to see my participation rates, I would be able to click on this, and then I can see the participation rates for my specific subgroups. So I might be able to look at this and say, overall, it's 94%, which isn't bad. We've got 1% of our students that we really need to get, moving and be able to increase. But then I can see that there are certain subgroups here that may be contributing a little bit more to that lower participation rate than others. So we might be able to help get our participation rate up by taking a look at those particular student groups or subpopulations and say, how can we get them to understand why the test is important? The other thing that we can do is not just here, but we could go into iAchieve and I could do the same thing here and I could go into Portsmouth again. We'll just do the same. Here. And if I go into assessment participation, this has a little bit more information on the participation rates. So I've not only got the participation rate here, I've got my participation, so 94%. I can see again, same thing with my subpopulations. I can also see more than 1 year on this within iAchieve. But I can also see the percentage of students not tested and the subpopulations here as well. So of the 6%, we have a high number of students here that you can see that might be, okay, of the 6% who didn't test, 25% of those 6% are homeless, or they're students with disabilities, or what have you. And then
I'm
there's
sorry, Heather. Heather, I want to, and just need to clarify that. this is saying of all your whole population, 6% of them did not participate. If you look at any subgroup like females, it's saying of all your females, 5% of them didn't participate. Of all your males, 7% of them didn't participate. So this is still just giving you what percentage of that group didn't participate. If you want to
Okay.
understand of just the kids who didn't participate, how did they break out? That's what you're about to show them here.
Okay, great. All right. So now these are the students that of the 6%, this is how the breakdown is for those particular subgroups. So of the 6% of students, we have here 60% of them or more were male, 40% of them roughly were female, again, of the 6%. And then as we're looking here, of the 6%, we have the, white population, most of them, were white, but you can see how it's broken down into subpopulation. And then you can also see of the 6%, the economically disadvantaged students have a pretty high percentage here of the students that didn't test. So we can start breaking that down. Okay, these are the students who didn't test, and what are our subgroups or subpopulations that we might be able to get to be able to improve on that participation rate. All right, we put the screenshots here just so you knew where you could go. Scenario, I'm over. I'm gonna go scenario 2 really quickly. You're curious about student proficiency and growth in your school. You want to see the snapshot for each grade level over the year. I'm just gonna actually, I'm gonna make this bigger and I'm gonna use this. This is actually a specific, if I were in Deerfield, this is what it looks like. And then these are some of the things that we pulled out for that. So we're looking at, in general, grade 8 students are having a really hard time. We're looking at from, in 2021 in grade 4, the cohort seems to be improving each year. Grade 3 was high after COVID, but then is maybe not staying as much, staying as high. And then some of the math students in grade 3 specifically were having a hard time here. So again, we're just looking at those cohorts over time. The last one here. So due to concern about performance on the math state assessment, your district is looking to change your math curriculum or take a peek at what maybe other folks are doing in similar districts and see if they're performing any better and maybe figure out who you should contact. So some of the information here that's relevant is your school's around 500 students. It's a K-8 school. So let's see if we have some K-8 schools that are 350 or more students that are doing well on performance in math. This particular one, I am going to go into iExplore because this is where we're able to see a lot of the information here. And I am able to go right into the search here. And so as I'm searching, I am going to choose what I want for my indicator. So my first indicator that I would like is the proficiency in math. That's what I want to be able to know about. I've got every school in the state is listed here and what their math proficiency is, all the way from highest all the way down to the lowest proficiency. My second indicator I would like is the information on the total enrollment for my school. And I want my total enrollment, like I said, I can use these little sort of mushroom half tabs here, but I like to just type it in here. It makes it easier for me. So now I've got 350 or more school, like anybody with the total enrollment of that. But now I also want to look at the my specific grade band for my schools. So this is looking at all of the grade bands here, but I actually only want schools that are like a K-8. So I'm basically doing anything pre-K, K-8 and apply here. So now I'm able to take a look at this, and I've been able to narrow it down and see that there are a couple of schools that are like that elementary, middle school level that are scoring relatively high on the assessment, and I might be able to figure out how I could contact them. I can look here, I could go right into iReport and look at any of these schools. It gives me the principal's information and the information on the schools, so I could reach out to them and figure out if there's anything that they're doing that we might be able to tap into. These are some helpful hints. You will get a copy of this whole presentation, so you'll be able to get this information here. We've got some upcoming webinars and workshops, the iPlatform for the general public, and then the unpacking standards. It's a workshop. I highly recommend it. It's a great way to be able to have your curriculum folks or your teachers spend the day with colleagues and unpack standards and make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure our students are getting all the skills they need, and then understanding assessments and standards, grades K-3. I will pause there and see if there's any additional questions. Thanks so much for staying the extra few minutes, but I'll stay on just in case there are any.
Thank you, Heather. Nope, that you hit the other questions, and also somebody asked about the presentation, so that will be emailed to you. The only couple quick things I want to mention. One is I took a look at one thing if in that second, I think it was the first scenario where Heather showed us that Portsmouth, if you looked at the participation rate of the kids who didn't participate, I think it was 36% of those kids were economically disadvantaged. I happened to take a look while Heather was doing that at iReport, and I looked in Portsmouth, and only 15% of the population in Portsmouth is economically disadvantaged. So it's kind of an interesting characteristic that although only 15% are economically disadvantaged, 36 of the percentage of the kids who didn't take the test were economically disadvantaged. So that definitely seems like it's a group that might be something that they might want to address if they want to try to improve their participation rate. So just a way that you might want to think about it when you're looking at one indicator, you can then go back and look at another indicator somewhere to see kind of how they compare. And you could also do the same thing at the state level versus yourself. So thanks so much, Heather, for the presentation. Thank you, everybody, for hanging on. Sorry we were a few minutes late. And Heather, I'll let you wrap it up.
All right. Just if you want to contact any of us, Dina is the rock star of iPlatform. Heather Jenkins, you've got Mike Schwartz here. If you have any questions or need any help, you can reach right out to us. And other than that, we will say have a great afternoon. And again, thanks so much.
Have a nice Thanksgiving next week.
All right.